The pinnacle. This is the A-list guest, Don Yannessa. I just can't tell you how much he and people like Jim Render have meant to me in my life, and that's why I still do what I do. I was telling Ronnie Shiro and Stevie Higgins, I was in McKeesport yesterday interviewing their young football coach, and I was having all of these flashbacks of Aliquippa in the heyday and Ambridge. McKeesport's still a big town, but it's got that blue-collar mentality. What it was all about. You told me a story about Larry Bruno yesterday that I want you to share. How after his incredible career was over, and I knew him when he was doing that, selling, for a local beer distributor, he would make his rounds and end up at the end of the day in your office.
Yeah, well, I got to be really close with Larry because I wanted to learn as much as I could, especially when I got the Aliquippa job in '72. I had been an assistant for 4 years at Ambridge, a varsity assistant. I was an offensive coordinator and the Frank Morocco's top assistant coach. And then I had been 3 years prior to that at Aliquippa as a junior high coach, so I had paid my dues. But the bottom line is, when I got the Aliquippa job, it was a bad job. They were 12-51, if you can believe that. They had 8 straight losing seasons, and it was a mess because there were racial problems, which was the underlying factor, I think, for a lot of their issues. But that wasn't the one thing I was concerned about because I'd handled the social end of it. I wanted to make sure I was as prepared as I could be on the football side, the organizational responsibilities, etc. I didn't know there was anybody better at that than Larry Bruno. And he was my idol, basically. There was 2 guys I always wanted to be, Larry Bruno and Lindy Laurel.
Yeah.
I mean, they were as opposite as they could be. The only synonym they had, they were both great leaders of men and good football coaches. And so I went to Larry first and I asked him if I could talk to him. He didn't know who I was really at the time, but he knew a little bit about me because I coached against him at Ambridge. But the thing of it is, he said, "Yeah, what do you want?" And I said, "Well, I want to pick your brain a little bit. I just got the job at Aliquippa." He was aware of that. He says, "Well, come down to my classroom. School's over at a certain time. I'll hang around. You be there when school's out, and we'll talk." So that was the 1972 to spring, and that was the first of many meetings I had with Larry. And he was so easy to get to, and so welcoming of your interest and of your respect, and he wanted to help you as much as he could. He wasn't worried about me beating him because he knew that if I ever beat him, it would be a long way down the road. But the thing of it is, he enjoyed teaching me. It's like he enjoyed teaching his kids. I'm sure that's the case. So I spent a lot of time with him, and I learned a lot. And I learned some things that were simple, but so helpful in my career that I never forgot them. And and he was a subtle guy. People don't notice about Larry. They called him the magician, but he was very thin-skinned. If you criticized him, or if you didn't understand what he was doing and why he was doing it, and you said something negative, you might get smacked. Because I know one time when he was at Monaca, he told me the story that he lost a game at Monaca, and somebody called his house from the local Italian club, and he called him a bum and this and that and whatever. And Larry knew who he was. And Larry said, "Where are you right now?" He's at the Italian club. So I'll be right down. I'll talk to you in a minute. And Larry went down. It wasn't too far from where he lived in Monaca. And he said the guy happened to open the door for Larry. When Larry got there and pushed the button, he belted him right in the kisser as soon as the door opened. He had to do it. He had to get it off his chest.
Oh my!
Yeah, that was another side of Larry. A lot of people don't know. And so, he was a wonderful human being, church-going guy, just like my high school coach, Carl Ashman, and those guys are all a different breed of cat.
Was he, Donnie? And look, we all make people larger than life. I do it. Many people do it. But these are the real football people. Stevie Higgins, Ronnie Shiro, Don Yannessa. Was he a great football coach?
Was he a great football coach?
Yes.
Absolutely. Could have coached on any level, of course. I mean, everything is applicable. If you can handle high school kids, you can handle college kids, and you can handle college kids. You can hire the NFL. You can hire them. I mean, you can work with them and be successful. It's just a matter of you have to understand the differences. You know, in high school, they play for glory. In college, they play for the scholarship, allegedly, no more.
No.
And in the pros, they play for money. And once you understand all the parameters that entails, you won't have any problem winning football games. It's all the same.
So on a rainy, dreary night in which this will be a weekend for the 4A championship, which is TJ and McKeesport at noon, and then we have the NA, of course, North Allegheny Art Walker Juniors team taking on Ryan Lahmeyer and Central Catholic. That's at 6 on KDK. And tonight, Aliquippa native John Ladon Pine Richland, Bethel Park in a 5A semifinal. Do you still get that urge this time of year, this weather, to just, you miss it at all, being a part of that? And you were such a part of it for such a long time.
Well, no, I don't really miss it. I'll tell you the truth. I don't. You know why?
Why?
I did it. I did it, and I did it the way I wanted to do it. And I had a lot of help, like with Larry and Lindy and my staff over the years. And, man, I spent a lot of time in rough weather,
Yes,
with
you did.
snow or cold or rain. I coached games in downpours that lasted for 4 quarters. And I don't know how I didn't catch pneumonia. I probably came close, didn't even know it. But the thing of it is, I enjoyed it all. I enjoyed the wins. I hated the losses. And the older I got, the longer that I was in the game, the losses hurt more. I couldn't sleep sometimes for an entire week. And so after 46 years, and I said, that's it, I'm done, I was done. And I have all those memories, and I look back, and my mother and my wife and everybody kept a lot of material so that I could always refresh my mind and memories. And I really don't have to, because I remember a lot. I don't need Predigen to get by, I guarantee you that.
But do you realize your vibrato, your style, your charisma really is one of the reasons why high school sports is where it's at today?
Well, you know what? I was kind of a
outspoken.
I would be like the guy that's at Colorado now, the guy that played.
Yeah, a perfect example.
I mean, I like to make people
stir it up,
say, who the hell does he think he is? And I liked it when I knew I was getting under their skin. I went to games in limos. When we played Fox Chapel in 1984 in the semifinals, Fox Chapel was a team with a lot of money. It's a big community with a lot of money.
Absolutely.
Aliquippa couldn't pay their light bill. So I said, when we go scout them on Saturday, we played Friday, they were playing Saturday, we were going to play the winner of their game. As we're going to Fox Chapel to see the semifinals, I told my doctor friend, who was our team doctor, I says, you're going to get us a limo, get a stretch limo, so that the staff that's going to scout will be in the limo. Make sure there's a television set in there, and have champagne and have some cold cuts and hors d'oeuvres. And so we pulled up at the stadium at Fox Chapel. We did it to make them upset about it. We wanted them to say, who the hell do they think they are?
Under their nerves.
And then the next week they had a great football team. They were 11-0, and we were 10-1. We had lost to Upper St. Clair last game of the year, 8-7 at Aliquippa, and we won our first playoff game. This was our second, going to be at North Allegheny.
Right.
They had that great running back that went to Penn State. Chris Thorpe. He was a good one. And they had a great football team supporting him and everything he did. We were underdogs in that game. We beat them 28-14 at North Allegheny. And we went on to win the championship that year over Mount Pleasant in Three Rivers. So, and then after that, we started doing things, all kind of crazy stuff. I had people jumping out of airplanes at our home games. And I stole the fireworks from Lindy Laurel, and I stole the.
Who put the guy on the horse with the
I did that, and of course I stole that from Florida State.
Yep.
And we had people that had horses that wanted to do it. We had women that made the outfits. He was beautiful. This guy looked like a real chief of Indians. He had the whole headdress. He was pressed out. He did it for years and years for us, and the flaming spear and everything into the ground. That was, after a while, the people, we used to have 4 movie theaters in Aliquippa. They were all closed. So we were the only show in town.
Here, John and Maggie Schmutzer, Metropolitan Windows, good friends. They love you. They always want me to say hi whenever I run into you. So I got to ask you this question. You had all these athletes, all this success, the pinnacle, and you went to Baldwin.
Yeah.
And you remember what you told me about Baldwin? And I mean this with the utmost respect. I said, what's it like? He goes, I got young kids who play the violin and wear braces.
Yeah.
And I thought, talk about a shift. But it was a good shift. And to this day, they're still talking about you and Baldwin. I had an assistant coach at Central Catholic last night in Oakland, went on a tangent about you and best thing that ever happened to Baldwin when he left. This is when blah, 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 blah. So why Baldwin?
Well, I wanted to be an athletic director. I was a teacher. I taught for 26 years. I taught English. And I liked the classroom, but it got old. And I wanted to be an athletic administrator. And I knew I'd be good at it. And I'd be fair with coaches and I would help them. I'd support them and I'd be demanding. And I wouldn't have to answer bells and worry about diagramming sentences and nouns and pronouns and conjugating verbs. I had enough of that.
He still got it.
So the bottom line is they said, you be the AD. And I wanted a 4-year rollover contract, which meant that when you hire me, I got a 4-year contract. At the end of that year, if you like what I did, you'll roll it over and I'll have 4 years again. And we can do that for forever, depending on how you feel and how I feel. I lasted 14 years, and then after they extended my contract, even after I had been there for 14 years, and I had 11 winning seasons in those 14 years. When I got there, they were 17-60. They were terrible.
I know.
And they're terrible now. They lost 21 years in a row.
Okay, so you brought it up. Let me ask. You mentioned Fox Chapel. I have a lot of friends in that school district. And I remember Mike Smianik, good friend, obviously part of that cradle of coaches, Aliquippa. Bobby Palka, another guy. We were talking one day, and Bobby said 3 jobs that would be great. Ambridge, this was years ago, because of the numbers. Talked about Fox Chapel because of the numbers. Butler's another school that people keep thinking the numbers are there. Why is it that some of these big, massive, and I love Baldwin School District. It's a beautiful school district. It's a great community. I'm there all the time. Why is it that some of these schools, even with numbers, can't get a winning program?
Well, let me tell you what. At Aliquippa, there would be some teams. I had 7 Division I's on one team. At Baldwin, I was there for 14 years, 14 football seasons. I had 5 Division I kids, period, over 14 years. 2 of them, one was a great one at Penn State, Gal Sizer, and another one was a good one, an excellent one at Michigan. He was a tackle, and those 2 guys both made it to the NFL. Gal Sizer at Indianapolis, and the other kid, his name slips my mind at the moment.
Okay.
But he played at Michigan, and then he got drafted by New England. He had 7 years in the NFL, 5 with New England and 2 with the Carolina franchise. And Damon Denson was his name.
Okay.
And Damon was a great class kid. Now, the other 3 guys, 2 went to Maryland, never saw a snap on the field. 1 went to Georgia Tech and only lasted 6 weeks. That was 5 kids in 14 years. And I used to have 75, 80 kids on a team. So multiply that times 14 and see how many kids we went through. But the other kids were good kids, but they went to Westminster, they went to Waynesburg, they went to Slippery Rock. Well, they went to Division II and III schools.
That's okay.
Of course it's okay. It's okay with me too. And they played hard for me. We had 8-1 seasons. We won playoff games. That never happened before. We won a conference championship in Quad A with Upper St. Clair and Mount Lebanon and Bethel Park and all those guys in our league. First ever. We had all these firsts. The WPIL plaques that I have at Baldwin are the only WPIL plaques they have in football.
Wow.
So bottom line is we made them better. You only win championships when you have championship players. And they have to show up at the same time sometimes. That never happened for us.
All right. So a couple of things before we let you go. Don Yannessa, Larry Bruno Foundation, magical coach. Absolutely love this place. Help them out any way you can. And, Joe Namath and I talk about it. Stevie and I talk about it. It's all about carrying on that great tradition. People don't realize, even though when you're in a winning program, for Sean Patrick this year, they didn't get to the championship game. Mike, what he went through as far as, the classification things. I mean, it's just, being in that mill town, there were $2 million worth of paychecks being put onto those streets every 2 weeks by J&L. Mm-hmm. You had thousands of people. It was the largest Catholic church, St. Titus, in the entire diocese of Pittsburgh. And if you weren't winning, you were feeling the heat. I don't think people realize the pressure being the Aliquippa coach when you were the Aliquippa coach.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But the thing is, I took over for 5 guys that all lost, one after the other. And that wasn't easier for me, but the expectations were, when I got the job, he's just another guy, and in 3 years we'll fire him too. It wasn't that they hired me because I was some kind of kid with a great resume. They hired me because I was convenient, I was there, and they liked me as a person, and they knew I was a pretty good coach, but they didn't think I'd win. I knew that, but I was going to fool them. I was definitely going to win.
You did.
Because I knew how to work at it. I wasn't going to outsmart anybody, but I was going to outwork everybody if I could do that. But here's the deal. I got to tell you this, Rob. You're a smart guy. You know your athletics. You especially know football. The numbers in the WPIL are overrated. Aliquippa, when I got there, we were a Class A team playing AAA football. That was the highest division. People says drop it down to A and you'll win. I said, I'm not dropping it down. We're staying right where Ashland was, and when we win a championship, it's going to be in AAA. And that materialized. That happened. I never dropped it down, even though I had a lot of 8-2 teams that never even went to the playoffs. And I never. Finally, I got to the playoffs for the first time in 1980. We won 12-0, and we beat Mount Lebanon, the only team to beat Mount Lebanon in 2 years. That was in an exhibition game. Mount Lebanon had won 2 Quad A championships back-to-back, because 1980 was the first year for that new classification. We stayed in AAA. We were the best team in AAA in the WPIL, and they were the best Quad A team. And we beat them 13-9 at Aliquippa in front of 7,000 people on Friday night. But we only had 380, 400 kids in a high school. Mount Lebanon was a big school.
Yeah.
But we played Seneca Valley. We played Newcastle. We played everybody.
Upper St. Clair.
Yeah, Upper St. Clair. We played everybody. There was nobody we wouldn't play except a double A or an A school. I didn't want to play anybody like that. I wanted to play all the big guys and the best coaches. Now, we were 12-0 that year, and we lost to TJ. TJ was no slouch.
Mm-mm.
They were good. They were a big school. They were AAA, legitimately. They had one of the finest coaches that ever breathed oxygen in the WPIL, in Bat Manzini.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, I was crushed when I lost that game. But when I realized,
WPIL championship.
well, yeah, it was a WPIL championship, and he beat us at Pitt Stadium, and they outcoached us. They really did. But the thing of it is, after I wised up, and Paterno says, "Don't take it so hard. You got more other years to go. He's done. He's retired." I said, "You know what?" And he all those years,
That's what Paterno told you.
Yeah, he said, "You got a lot of years to go." He's finished now, and the good thing he won one finally. That's the only one he's ever won. So I said, "You know what?" And he's Italian too, and I'm an Italian. I said, "He's a good kid. I like him." I says, "You know what?" He's not a kid, of course. He was 65, but we got to be really close, me and Bap. Especially when I took the Baldwin job, because that was his neck of the woods. He was at TJ. He even coached a little bit later on, and I got to coach against him when he was at Elizabeth Forward as a defensive coordinator in the WPIL semifinals. We played him at Mount Lebanon in a downpour, and we were lucky to win that game. But anyway, the bottom line is the numbers is overrated. Aliquippa has athletes.
Mike Warfield knew that.
Yeah, of course he did. And Mike Warfield played for me.
What a player.
And a great player.
Great
and a great
too.
person.
Yep.
And I orchestrated his move to Catawba. I knew that would be a great place for him. It would be a great school. He would flourish there. And a guy that he was his coach from Freedom, J.D. Haglund,
was a great player.
He was a good friend of mine. And I said, J.D., you got to treat him like he's your son. You keep him there.
J.D. was his college coach.
Yeah, J.D. coached him at Catawba. And he was a great player at Clemson, J.D.
Yeah.
And you know, the thing of it is, J.D. said, Don, if I get him, I'll move him in my house. I said, you don't have to do that. All you have to do is make sure he stays in school. And he's got a thin skin about him, but he's a very loyal kid.
He's a good guy.
And you got to have to understand him and give him all the support he needs, academic support, et cetera, et cetera. But going back to my original thing I wanted to tell you before we pack this up, the numbers game, it's overrated. I mean, Butler's still got 3,000 students,
right? But
they don't want to play football anymore. They lost their mojo. That's a shame.
It is
because they were powerful. at one time. Now, Newcastle can lose more kids, but it doesn't matter because they have great athletes
Yeah,
there.
nice little unit
And
here.
something's going on there where, they're not like, hey, Lindy was hard to replace.
Yeah, I know.
And in my situation at Aliquippa, I think we had it so strong that it didn't matter. Everybody that took over did pretty good.
Let me tell you how you, and we're going to say goodbye. Thank you. But let me tell you why you don't understand who you are. But I do. Stevie understands. Shiro understands. I've been in this game in one form or another since the mid-'80s. I've interviewed them all. Many of the people that I'm talking to now, radio, these videos, I covered them as players. Bill Chirpet, who's one of the best, TJ. I mentioned your name to him yesterday. I mentioned Render's name. Their ears perk up. I'm with Matt Miller in McKeesport. Mention your name. Their ears perk up. Gino DeMarco, 30 plus years, Geneva. Their ears. People know you and Render. So whether you believe it or not, what you did all those decades ago that you said, I did it all, want no more. It was great while it lasted. People are still talking about Don Yannessa. And not anything else that should make you happy.
I'm proud of the fact that, people don't have bad things to say. And, we didn't try to be. We stayed within our own skin and within our own framework. We like to clown around a little bit, and have a good time. But we weren't like stiff-laced and.
But it's nice that
we wanted to be who we were and enjoy what we were doing.
Well, the thing that I love about Stevie and what he's done here, Larry Bruno, the legacy will live on forever. I just wish Render could have something like this. You could have something like this, even if it would be, I don't know, a multiple building with a montage of stuff. Because you guys, long after we're all here, they still need to know who Don Yannessa and Jim.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you something, Rob. Mr. Higgins here and Ron Shiro and all those people that played for Larry Bruno, they're special. Not only are they special because they were good athletes and they brought fame and fortune to that football program under Larry in their careers, but also they never forget where they come from, and they want to honor people that worked their tails off to get them where they ended up. And you know what? That is unique to Beaver Falls. Beaver Falls is a unique community, not only because they have great teams to talk about and great athletes who played here, but they have a real love for the community that shows. I mean, it shows.
He'll take you on a mini tour.
Yeah, the thing of it is at Aliquippa, sometimes, we got people there that are worried. They have to worry about where the next meal's coming from. So they have a lot of things on their plate. And I'm not saying that Beaver Falls doesn't. I'm just saying that Beaver Falls people seem to have more time and to do some things that some folks from some communities can do.
I will say one thing. The mayor, great job in Aliquippa, and that Heinz Field is absolutely spectacular.
Oh, yeah, that is really beautiful.
Don Yannessa, he is still the living legend. It's your Pat Pack. We're going to come back one more with Steve Higgins. Very long day coming to an end here at the Larry Bruno Foundation. You got to check it out. Check out when they are here because you need to be here.